All right, guys, come on. We knew coming into this matchup it would be a banger, and oh yeah, we saw some high level drafting. I would say the most pressure applied on both sides, and basically, uh, responding as heavily as possible to each and every one of the picks that were given, and like it really shows that T1 are scaling in this event. I really like that, and they know exactly what they want and what openings that BLGA specifically gave them. And despite their low seeding and maybe their gameplay still needing to round out some things around the edges, it's been looking really promising. So let's break in and break down this draft, right? So I would say the meta is solidifying more and more with every passing day. So at this point, I would say let's put it this way: red side has more options in terms of punishing the picks that blue side can have, and that's the main strength. But there are a few B1s that have been like, yeah, that's pretty broken, and it's relatively hard to deal with. So, and T1 identified that really well here. So you see the smolder's been coming up more and more. It could be that at the very highest levels of play, it like wraps around to the point where the smolder infinite scaling comes back, and then the really high level millionaires, they end up being able to neutralize it really well. The Aurora Flex is also very prominent, right? Because of its really strong matchup spread, and you can dual flex it. So the B1, you both get a prio, and it's a flex, and it's B1. It's pretty hard to deal with. And then, of course, we have the Yone, the biggest defender of this patch. So, a lot to unpack here. BLG opened with the Ari, which is very interesting, to say the least. So, what this does is essentially guarantee a solid matchup for Knight no matter what. He loves his champ, and he can pretty much secure this playstyle and kind of contribute to whatever comp BLG does end up going for. So it's like kind of like a non-answer, right? The problem with that is that T1 are like, well, you left 2 prio picks open, I'm down. So they just basically insta-lock slam Narvi, which are 2 champs that basically guarantee certain things in the matchup. So top side, like I said, I've been saying it's the safest top laner. It's preceding Cassante at this point because Cassante is a little bit weak and a lot of champs have been able to take advantage of it. So because of that, it's actually fallen off. So it can neutralize pretty much every matchup. I do look forward to basically the elimination stage with the single elimination bracket where teams will most likely think about ways to counter this potential Gnar blind, or they'll push it up even more in priorities so that it doesn't become very relevant. Because the only counter that can really soft deal with Gnar is the Jax, but like it's not amazing, right? You typically want even harder engage or things that can reap the scaling just as easily and really take advantage of this. We could even see Smolder flex into the Gnar, or like other things like you can go Camille into the Gnar as well, but it's also still a little bit hard. It really does depend on what teams want to go for. The Vi also guarantees a certain level of lockdown, especially against something like the Ari, so it's basically a given. And then the Silas on 3 is also an honestly excellent untapped pick because of the prominence of its ability to take advantage of the enemy's comp, right? They go Kalista on 4. We see the commonality here where all the priority picks result in AD carries getting shafted. So a lot of them don't end up coming to fruition here. There's only 3 of them that are banned in this case, so it's not too bad. But this does mean that the Kalista on 4 does not give too many options for BLG. It's basically a default Jhin pick because of the lack of frontline on the side of T1 and the fact that they have a lot of engage, right? So you can easily eliminate a lot of the decent lane bullies. Lucian Nami would do really well in lane, but then the moment you fumble one fight, which is very possible against T1, they can do some racist stuff with their comp, and it will just guarantee that that comp will get shut down. The Jhin guarantees a level of safety, but it basically also means that their BLG are forced onto the Jhin, right? Unless they go for some crazy pick, but there's not too many options in this case. They also realize this, by the way, because they end up banning the Renata. So it forces T1 to limit their Kalista combos to things like the Nico. Although, in my opinion, the T1 Kalista Renata is more of a formality in lane rather than actually being something that contributes to the comp. So they're not too pressed about that, right? So by just by nature of them getting like having a stronger grasp of what they want, it seems like they managed to secure a much more consistent way of playing, right? I'd say the Narvi opener was already enough to be like, oh, our comp's already pretty solid, right? And it gives them much more outs. And also, like the fact that they pick these, it limits their options that much more. So when you go here, BLG feel obligated to play a little more backwards, right? Because they just see that the T1 comp's pretty psychopathic. You got Kalista, you got Silas, you got Vi, right? But then the problem is when you try to hedge with something like the Poppy, it's already done because a champion like Vi is one of the true counters to something like the Poppy. So it's hard to really answer in that sense, right? And a champ like this in the meta where responses are so possible, are so strong, it's a very potent thing, right? Because if it can't really be answered well, and this is something that Vi guarantees, then that's a problem, right? That's an asset in draft, right? If you can guarantee what your comp can do. And so that's why things like the Narvi are so prevalent, right? Or like, for example, like the Ashe, it's so prevalent for AD carries because it guarantees a strong matchup. It's like kind of the same thing, right? And that's what you can really feel the power of this, giving so many slots in draft on the R3 and 5 towards T1, and like BLG can't really come up with an answer. So they had a decent strategy coming in with Ari being able to be a good opener and be flexible. But in the case where there's more value to be had in other picks, that would probably be the biggest takeaway from this draft from BLG. They know they're a team that we all know the Chinese style thrives on being able to play this chaotic sort of controlled style, and just living in the chaos. But when the cost of something like this in this case might have been too great in this draft, and that might have been the issue. So really good draft though overall, and I think this is stuff that you wouldn't really be able to catch unless you're in the moment, and that's when this catches teams off guard, right? When you're not going to know that you couldn't respond to something like this or that slot of pick until it's arguably too late, and those are some of the best angles in draft, and I think T1 executed that really well. So giving them a few things to like basically chew on, and really honestly getting on top of things against China here. And I think this is a good sign for T1. They're scaling, guys. They're scaling. So I think they're cooking now. I think they're slowly stabilizing in terms of what they see in draft, and I hope to see more from them. So yeah, catch you guys in the next one.